Welcome to Stitchery Stories, where textile artists share their life in fabric and thread, inspiration, techniques, disasters and delights. And I'm Susan Reeks, enthusiastic embroiderer and textile arts dabbler who also loves podcasting. So take a break and enjoy our light-hearted chat, and please share with your friends so they can enjoy it too. Hello and welcome today to our lovely guests. I have Alison Witchwood and Carol Coleman today. Hi, Alison. Hi, Carol.
Hi. Hi, Sue.
It's lovely to speak to you both. Now, a bit of background as to why I've got two people here. A former guest, Bridgette Bernadette Karn, she was a very early guest of mine, is based near York. And she got in touch with me about a month or so ago to let me know about a group that she was a member of, and wondered if we'd be interested in speaking. So I thought, yeah, that'd be interesting. There's lots and lots of textile groups around, but it's nice to be speaking to people at the very start of the journey. I thought that would be an interesting story for you all. So that's why we've got Alison and Carol. And I do know Carol, our paths crossed many years ago when I was a member of York Embroiderers Guild, but I haven't met Alison before. So the group's called York Textile Artists.
That's right, yeah.
I'll let you both just give us a quick background for the group, and while we're doing that, as we start your Stitchery story today, would you like to share with us the project that you're working on, which is your group, I suppose, and what's got you excited about it at the moment as well?
Well, we're having an inaugural exhibition very soon now. It's over the Remembrance Weekend in November the 10th and the 11th. And 8 of us are participating in this. And we're going to be showing, I think, the wide variety that we all do, because many of us have only recently met through some of the other members.
Right.
And we have seen what we all do for a start.
Oh, well, that's an interesting point for us all to start off then. So, yeah, that is cool. So you've all come together through different routes then?
We met thanks to York Open Studios last year. Took part last year. And it was very much a case of, York Textile Art has actually got quite a profile this time. Bridgette, again, who's a wonderful organiser, basically said, let's all get together, which we did. We had a couple of meetings and decided that this was the way forward, because we've all got very different styles, but it's time now really that textile art was taken seriously as a media, and we're trying to do what we can and do our best to make sure that happens.
Well, that's a lovely story, yes, and that's basically when Bridget got in touch with me, she said she'd started this group, but I wasn't quite sure how long the group had been on the go, so that's why I've got you two here to tell us all about it. So, yeah, and I often have this conversation with people about textile art being taken seriously, and I know everybody kind of feels quite strongly about it, don't we? And it is irritating to feel as if people dismiss it as a hobby or just a thing that ladies do on an evening,
Yes. No, we do it all day, and
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
People possessed. No, I think it's better now. We are starting to get taken seriously. A lot of the prizes, for example, the national competitions are opening up to textile media as well. We're getting less and less people turning their noses up and saying, oh no, that's not art, we don't want you as part of the exhibition or competition, so it is gradually changing now, I think, but I think it's taken a long time.
Yes, it certainly has, and I think it's partly due to, as well, as ever with anything like this, the people who have pushed the boundaries, the people who've made the efforts to enter and be rejected and kept on trying and raising the profile. So yeah, we've got a lot of those to thank as well, haven't we, for those approaches?
Yeah.
So do both of you just want to give me a quick overview about what you two specialise in, and then we can maybe just have a quick overview of some of the things the rest of the group are into as well, just to give everybody a bit of a rounded view of the group. And before I forget, because I've been terrible recently, the main place where everybody can find out about you all as a group is yorktextileartists.com.
That's right.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so Carol, do you want to tell us a bit about you?
It's hard to define exactly what I do. Whenever I'm asked, I'm a textile artist, but that isn't very descriptive because people not involved in textiles assume it's the design of textiles that is a textile artist. But I can't really narrow it any further because I'll tackle anything with anything. I use free machine embroidery a lot, but I'm also a felter, wet, dry, needle felting by machine and by hand. And I recycle materials, plastic, metal, hubs from car wheels.
Yeah, they look great.
Weaving. I make three-dimensional stuff, four-mounted stuff, art to wear. I think the trick is to keep moving and keep changing and keep everything fresh. I'm a patch worker, but I'm not keen on quilting. I do anything. I get sort of a little bit, I won't say bored, but a little bit jaded with one thing. I'll just pick up something else. At the moment, I'm gathering wool from the charity shop. There's some very nice stuff in there at the moment, and I've been going in, and every time there's still a bit of it left, I keep getting some more of the same stuff because I'll be knitting or crocheting or weaving with it. So I'll do anything with anything for anything.
As long as it's got some kind of fabric or thread in it, you're happy. Or Well,
I've even dabbled in ceramics and silversmithing, and anything that makes your hands happy. Really, if you're handling something and it's tactile, it doesn't have to be textiles. But I think textiles is so easily accessible for everybody. Doesn't require a massive amount of tools or expense. You can pick it up and take it with you a lot of the time, which many of the other mediums, for instance, I mentioned ceramics and silversmithing, they can be very expensive and require big outlay for big equipment.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I love the term to make your hands happy. That's a really nice way of describing us all doing things. I like that. Right, that's brilliant. So lots and lots of creativity in general there from you, Carol. And Alison?
Well, I've always painted and drawn since I was a tiny girl, but really, like I said to you before, I fell victim to the goblin sitting on your shoulder that says, oh, you should be doing something else. This is not what you should be doing when you've got children and a family and a job to do and everything. But really, where my journey started was with a workshop on a narrow boat near Sheffield. We did wet felting with a bit of needle felted accents. And I thought, and it was as if something inside it had sort of woken up and said, so it doesn't all have to be about paint and clay then. Art can be anything. And to me, I work in the main with wool, and wool gives what I do a life. Almost it lends it the life it had when it was still attached to the animal. It brings everything I do alive. I mean, most of my art is wildlife or animal art. I do amounts of stuff, birds, animals, and that just it really just seems to lend it a bit extra. It gives it something plus. But I've started to dabble in found textiles and lead figures to create story boxes. So I'll pull a whole load of pieces together that I've found that have been discarded or that were in my grandmother's jewellery box, for example, to create. I've got a massive collection of boxes from Victorian to quite modern ones. And I create sort of little worlds in those with textiles and found things. To create a message, really. So anything from, the Christmas post with felted robins and old letters and embroidery, right the way through to a remembrance piece quoting Thomas Wyatt.
Right. They sound absolutely wonderful, really interesting. So, and presumably there's plenty of pictures on the York Textile Artists website.
Yeah, there are some. There's 4 or 5 for myself, and I think, Carol, you've got quite a few as well, haven't you? Yeah. So there's about 4 or 5 from each of us on there right now. The pieces that are certainly the ones I've put on are pieces that I've got currently available. Because obviously, if it's already in somebody else's collection, it's a bit difficult, really. If somebody gets in touch and says, "Can I have this?"
Yes. You've explained a little bit about the kind of inspiration from Bridgette collecting you all together from the York Open Studios. Yes, how nice that Bridgette took the kind of reins there and organised you all together. Now, you were saying, interestingly enough, that you're not all very familiar with each other's work. So that's been a bit of a journey for you as well, hasn't it?
I think that's going to continue because as time goes on, our work is changing anyway. I don't think I'd met Alison before our first meeting. A number of the group I'd never met before. I'd met Bridgette several times, and one or two of the others, Angela Anning. I'd met her several times before. But for the most part, we're banding together as acquaintances and just a sprinkling of friends and then almost total strangers.
So it's been quite nice then to be able to say widen your circles of friends, and now you've got a group that you can all help and support each other. So I think that's a lovely story, that really nice. And would you like to just go through the names of the other members?
Sure. There's Angela Anning, she's a felt maker. There's Fran Brammer. She does free machine embroidery and hand embroidery. And Rosanna Johnson, she's still, I think she's still in higher education.
She's doing her MA at the moment.
Ah, right.
But she's involved in a lot of, she does printmaking, doesn't she?
And, abstract printed textiles and mixed media.
Oh, sounds interesting.
And Bridgette, as you know, is a felt maker. Jill Shepherd, she's a more traditional hand embroiderer and quilter, and she works with silks and beautiful fabric. And then Alison here, and then Justine Warner, she's mainly a free machine embroiderer. And if you haven't come across her work before, she uses old ties, men's neckties, as backgrounds to stitch onto. So you wouldn't believe what she can do with.
Now, yes, I've seen some of Justine's work, and I think she's on my list of potential victims for the show as well. So I thought, that is interesting, using the ties. Right, and then, of course, Fran was a fairly early guest as well, who had, I think, followed from probably some post that Bridgette had made or something like that as well. So I liked Fran's blog. I thought it was quite amusing, actually. Brilliant. So is that everybody then? Sounds like about 8. Is there 8?
Yes, it is,
That's right. There's eight currently, but next year it's going to be opened up to more applications from more people once we've got ourselves properly organised. Hopefully we'll have quite a good network within York.
So what would you say then so far has been the high point of your group and your project, given that you haven't been going very long? What are you all excited and working towards? Your exhibition, I suppose.
Well, yes, there's that. We've got something else in the pipeline that we've submitted for next year, but I think I'd say is the high point for me is the sheer enthusiasm that's been generated right from the very beginning, which was only about 4 months ago, was it? In June,
right,
that we all met together for the first time. But we haven't actually all met together at the same time because it's the logistics of it isn't possible. But between 4 and 6 of us, I think, or 6 or 7 of us in any one meeting when we discuss plans. But it's Bridgette's a real driving force. I don't know where she gets her she gets us going. I think that as soon as November clicks over, that we are going to be really excited and getting together with this exhibition when we set it up. The exciting bit is going to see what everybody's brought, because as I said, we haven't all seen each other's work, really. We're not all familiar with everybody's. So that's going to be quite a highlight of the year. And I'm really glad and grateful to Bridgette that she really pulled out all the stops and she got this. I think we'd have to say that she got this off the ground, really. And we've just hung on to her shirt tails and carried on.
Yes. The whole thing is, for me, it's really exciting to be part of a group. It's not something I've experienced before. I've never been part of a guild or, like the Embroiderers Guild or any of this sort of thing. So I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying talking to people who face similar issues, asking people, well, how do you solve that? I mean, I exhibited with Fran at Staithes this year. She came to Staithes with me. We were at Staithes Arts Festival.
Right.
And that was really lovely, having somebody to share that space with, share that experience with. That was great. So it's, taking inspiration from things that the people do and thinking, well, actually, yes, that is valid. That does, because very often you sort of, I get carried off into little byways, and I look back at it, I think, was that a waste of time, or was that important? And then, what this group's given me is the kind of the validation for what I create. It's sort of, yes, you are an artist. This is a real thing. Because I think when you're first starting out, you can feel, ooh, am I bigging myself up too much? Am I...
yes, good old comparisonitis. Yes,
yeah,
it happens to us all.
Absolutely. It's sort of, it's the imposter syndrome, isn't it? Where you think, oh, is this really something I should be doing? Or is this art? Or am I just pretending? And so getting that validation is hugely important, and it's great.
That's a nice point, because a common thread running through a lot of the chats I have with artists is, yes, when you're in your studio or in your place where you create your work, and you kind of get absorbed, but it can be quite isolating. It can be quite lonely in some respects. But then the other side of textile art, embroidery, any creative activity really with a group, is it's a very nice community thing. It's good for our souls, isn't it, to be involved with a group of people who love doing what we're doing and sharing. So I think you've got both sides there, and particularly being able to bounce ideas off each other and get kind of feedback of each other. And as you say, think, well, was that a good idea? Can I go somewhere else with this? And we can always come up with ideas for everybody else, can't we, as well? So
yeah.
But I think it's a really, really good idea there. And as you say in there, sharing, kind of exhibition space, etc., I think should imagine would be less lonely and stressful.
Yeah, it can be quite isolating. No, I think this is really good.
Yeah, you can end up for weeks just talking to the cat, you see.
Yes.
Unless you've got somewhere to go to you see other like-minded people and talk and understand what each of us is talking about. So, if you work alone, I think it's of necessity, really. I think every one of us works alone, don't we?
Yes, we do. Yeah.
And so, like Alison here, she's in the bottom of the garden with her hut. I'm next to the kitchen for mine, so I can just jump up and get myself a cup of tea and perhaps go online upstairs and or even chat to the neighbour or something.
Yeah.
Some people are sort of even closed off from the house as well. So yeah, it is good to get out and remind yourself that you're a human being.
So in terms of the exhibition, how did that come about?
We wanted to exhibit together. We knew we would, and we were searching, weren't we, looking for venues. And Bridgette had exhibited at the Cemetery Chapel before. I have as well, years ago, and it is a nice space. And it's a nice big space for the amount of people that are going to share. So she looked into it, and they've got one spare weekend, haven't they?
Literally one. This was the only one. And I suspect it's because this is the Remembrance Weekend, and the Cemetery Chapel, of course, is going to be right in with a lot of the remembrance parades that are happening. There will be quite a lot of activity about Remembrance Weekend over that time. And so that might have put a lot of people off. But what we decided instead was we were going to make something of it. We are really aware that we are in sacred space at a very special time this year. It's the 100th anniversary of the armistice. And so as a result, what we've done between us is we've made 100 poppies, which are part of a wall hanging being designed and put together by Jill Shepherd. We've all supplied her with our poppies that she's sort of creating this, the hanging, and then they will be for sale during the weekend in aid of SAFA and the British Legion.
Right, lovely.
All proceeds will go to them. It's not just a proportion. The whole thing will be split between those two causes. But these are art poppies. Lots of different styles. We've all brought our own creativity to each set that we've done. And so we've made a point of making that a focus of the exhibition. And so around that, which will sit behind, there is an altar within the chapel, that will sit behind the altar. And then around that, we're exhibiting the rest of our art. So we're embracing that rather than thinking, oh gosh, what do we need to do about that? This is a bit embarrassing, which I think is one of the reasons it was actually available to us to rent.
I think that's brilliant that you've used that as taken the advantage of that space, the space in the calendar and the space to exhibit, and also to then, as you say, it logically flows, doesn't it? Right, well, let's make the remembrance celebrations. Is that the right word?
I think it is the right word for this time because it's the 100th anniversary of the armistice.
That's right, yes. So I think to kind of tie in, and there's so many things going on, and there's been a lot of high profile activities. So I think that's really, really nice that you've been able to bring your work together, and as you say, to do the wall hanging, and then to use that as a place to bring your other art. So is all the artwork that you've got there themed around Remembrance Day, or have you got other things there as well?
We haven't used the armistice for our work, except I've got one piece that I did at the beginning of the 100th anniversary. So mine dates back to 2014. I did a piece, and I'll be bringing that one with me. But I'm not sure if any of the other girls have got anything that's related to the commemoration of the First World War. But most of the work that we're bringing is examples of what we do best.
Right. Yes.
Now I've got a piece that's themed that, and I think Jill has as well. I think most of us might have one piece that we're bringing that will lend itself to that remembrance. But yes, it is really an exposition of a wider thing. We just wanted to make sure that we were mindful, shall we say, of that space on this particular day.
Right. And so it's the 10th and the 11th, that's the weekend. And what sort of time? Is there a kind of an interruption because of services or anything like that?
There's no services. It's from 10 o'clock in the morning till 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We will be having the silence at 11 o'clock on Sunday.
We
will be observing that.
Yeah, brilliant. Right, and that's at the York Cemetery Chapel. And whereabouts is that for anybody who's local?
That's on Cemetery Road.
Yeah.
That's sort of leaving town, heading towards Fulford. There's a big banner outside. You can gain access by car or on foot to get to the cemetery chapel, so you can turn into the chapel itself, and then just drive. It's quite a short drive, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Less than 100 yards, I think. And there's a little bit of parking up there. We have got O'Crumb's caterers there who are catering for teas and coffees and cakes. Is it?
Cake, yes, absolutely.
Oh, well then.
No, I'm really looking forward to that because I really like a good slice of proper Victoria sponge, and I've been promised that they're going to supply some. I don't treat myself very often because of my rapidly expanding waistline, but, a special occasion this one.
Well, this is it. If we're enjoying textile art, we need a piece of cake with it, don't we? I'm a member of the Hull Embroiderers Guild now. There's 10 of us. We're a small but merry band, and Janet is the cake queen. So every month she treats us to some lovely, lovely home baking. So it's like a real treat, we get these absolutely gorgeous concoctions that she brings. It's always like, oh, right, never mind the sewing. What's the cake this month? Although she did post the other day saying she's having her heating replaced and she won't have any gas or something. So will somebody do some baking? Everybody's taken a step back, I think. So I don't know, actually. I better find out what the cake situation for Saturday is going to be.
Well, if in doubt, there's always M&S.
Dear me. Right, so you've alluded there about the fact that you're a fairly new group. So what would you say some of the challenges? So if anybody else is thinking of setting up a group like this, what would you say some of the challenges have been getting started and working together?
Well, first of all, is finding the time that can all be present to discuss things. So communication after a meeting is every bit as important as communication during a meeting. So somebody needs to tackle taking some notes and some minutes, so it can then be emailed out to everybody to remind them not only of what was said, but who can't make it. So communication is going to be key, I think, all the way through that. Having social media, having email, as well as our physical meetings. We've got to use all of those so that nobody feels left out or doesn't have any influence, and that we need, once we're a more formal and perhaps a bigger group, we must actually send out notices well in advance about what's going to be up for discussion. All of these things I think are really important. That way everybody feels part of it, even if they can't attend. But another thing that we plan to do, which we have discussed, but it's on the back burner because of the exhibition, immediate exhibition, is to spend time informally in each other's studios, that will perhaps maybe once a month or every 6 weeks, one of us will have a sort of a friend open day to the group, so that anybody that can make that day and that time can come over, and we can all sort of talk about what we do, rather than arranging an exhibition or saying arranging a constitution and all the business stuff. We can actually talk about our own things amongst ourselves. So I'm looking forward to that, and I think everybody else is too, because it's what we do, and seeing how everybody else works within the textile media is going to be really interesting.
That's going to be super, isn't it? Because the danger is that we get together and we spend time talking about what we are going to do, or talking about what we are doing, or talking about what we haven't done yet because we haven't had time. But the thing that we don't do is do the thing that we're all busy talking about. And that's, I have to say, that's one of the things I do like about our guild, is the fact that because we are small, we don't have speakers. We occasionally have workshops. So we've got a special treat this year. We've got 3 workshops, and we had 3 last year. But the rest of the time, what we do is we bring our stuff, we get the tables out, we all sit around a big table and put all our stuff everywhere, and crack on with what we're doing, and have a good nosy at what we're all doing, and if anyone's got stuck or wants some ideas. And that, to me, is fantastic, because I can listen to people, and because I do this podcast, I spend a lot of time talking about textile art and embroidery. In fact, really, don't ask me when I last picked up a needle. About 3 weeks ago, for about half an hour. My output has shrunk drastically since I started doing this, but never mind. So that's what I like about our guild, is that we do actually turn up and we do something, and by the sounds of it, that would be a really great thing for you all to do as well, isn't it? You say, take it in turns and go into each other's studios and gathering together and trying things out and doing things and learning about each other. That sounds marvellous.
That's right. We just have to accept that not everybody can make all of it all the time.
Yes.
So that you'll have to organise ourselves so that the host is going to know who's coming and adjust their studio accordingly to squeeze them in if it's going to be a busy one.
I'm looking around my studio now, which is probably room for about 4 people. That's it.
Well, I think that'll be brilliant. So yeah, it's back to the communication and organising yourself, and then the challenge of actually spending time doing what you love rather than talking about it all the time. So yeah, that's brilliant. Because I did have one of the questions I thought about was, and I thought, is it a silly question? Do you spend time together as a group? And obviously at the moment, the answer is not really. But you are going to make a point of doing that more frequently.
Yeah, that suggestion cropped up quite early on, didn't it? That's what we would like to manage. Again, it's something, how to do it and the best way of doing it. We'll just have to start doing it and see how it turns out.
Yeah,
about that.
Yeah, and when you have met before, have you all met at a different venue, or are you just meeting at someone's house? How have you managed that? We've
rotated.
Yeah.
We've had a couple of meetings in public places like cafes with large tables.
Yeah.
But we decided actually it might work better, and also we can get to see everybody in the studio. So we have been starting to take turns having our formal meetings about discussions about what's happening, rotating around different people's homes.
Right, because early on I had the 2 ladies from the Profanity Embroidery Group they're based in Whitstable, and that was all highly amusing, and they all meet together in a pub, and I'll turn up with a sewing, and everyone kind of sneaks in and sits down and has a uproarious time in one particular pub. That's their meeting venue. And then there's been another lady who organises kind of community sewing groups, and she's been doing those in pubs as well.
Why didn't we think of that?
Oh, I have actually met in the pub. When I first came to York in 2009, I came by myself ahead of my husband, and I joined the doodling group, and they met in the pub. And I went out, and I didn't know what to expect. Don't normally go into pubs at night by myself, but I did, and I was meeting perfect strangers. I was old enough to be everybody's mother. It was very, very enjoyable. And there is another group in York that do meet in the pub, the Golden Ball. Sarah Jackson, another embroiderer and textile artist, she does a UFO club in the Golden I think once a fortnight, so everybody brings stuff that they haven't finished. And that's in the pub.
Oh, I like the sound of that, a UFO club in the pub. Marvellous. Yeah. Why haven't I heard of this before? Excellent.
Well, you'll have to do a podcast, I'll tell that.
Yeah. Oh, that'll be fantastic. Yeah, I like the idea of that, because when I'm speaking to individual artists, I've always got a question there about UFOs, and we always normally have an absolute hoot, having a bit of a laugh about some of these UFOs take on a whole life of their own, don't they, really, some of them, Brilliant. Right then, so kind of moving forward, you mentioned there that you had some ideas for 2019. Have you got anything else that you can kind of share with us? So moving past the exhibition and what you think you'll all be working on next.
Well, as a group, we've submitted, made a proposal to York Art Gallery, but we've no idea whether that will take off or not yet. Mm-hmm. That is just, we've put in a proposal and we'll wait and see.
Yeah.
A number of us are in York Open Studios next year. Is it 5 or 6?
It's 5 of us next year.
But at this point, I will also say that, seeing as your podcast is going out to so many textile artists and embroiderers, is that there are as many as 15 textile artists involved in York Open Studios for 2019. And I believe this is more than there's ever been before by a long shot.
Wow. That's absolutely amazing, isn't it? And that's just the general artist open studios, isn't it? So it's all mediums. Wow. And whenabouts is that? What month is it?
That is in April. That's in 2 weekends, the 5th and 6th, and the 13th and 14th. And I'd really like to encourage everybody that is in the least bit interested in textiles, come out and support us, come out and visit us. We're all over York and in the surroundings. And in the meantime, also come, perhaps because it's textiles, but come and visit all the other artists that are in the area as well. There's going to be, I think it's over 140 artists involved over the weekends. Some of them are just recent graduates, and some of them are experienced, long-standing artists. And there's something for absolutely everybody. But I think 15 textile artists in a 10-mile radius is a good attraction for anybody that's the least bit interested in textiles.
Well, absolutely. I mean, there's quite a Yorkshire contingent listen to this anyway, because obviously I started off kind of chatting with Yorkshire friends. So we started off in Yorkshire, and do you know what? We're worldwide now.
Wonderful.
Yeah. But so anybody in Yorkshire, the wider Yorkshire area, and that takes up a big amount of space, or anybody who wants to hop on a train or a bus. So York Open Studios, lots and lots of textile artists there. So that's next April. And obviously the exhibition with your group, the York Textile Artists, is the 10th and the 11th of November in a couple of weeks' time at York Cemetery Chapel. Fantastic. Right. So have you got anything else that you want to share with us as we kind of wrap up today, Alison and Carol?
Well, I'll just mention that we've had a lot of inquiries from other people that would like to join the group. At the moment, we're not taking any new members until we get ourselves at the structure and how it's going to work. We've got a constitution, and now we've got a constitution, we're allowed a bank account. And that's been some fun and games, and we still haven't got it yet. It does take time. It's taken us a lot more time than we could possibly have envisioned. So what we said we would do, that we would take submissions for joining the group next May and June time. So anybody that's at all interested, register with our newsletter through the website, and news about our arrangements for that will be coming up on the website when we've got ourselves sorted.
Right. So that was a challenge that I never thought about, actually, when we was talking about, challenges getting the group up is, things like money and bank accounts when you're a group.
You can't have a bank account without a constitution,
Right.
and we can't have a constitution without a very formal meeting by all members. And of course, all of this has taken time. I think it's about 8 weeks we've been trying to get this done now, and we've only in the first stage of the bank account. It's been very complicated.
It's strange, isn't it, how the world puts structures around us when all we wanted to do was sit and talk about our textile art.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah. But yes, it has to be very formal. Otherwise, they don't consider that you are serious enough to be able to handle money.
We knew we needed to be able to write checks and pay for venues, which was the reason why we started doing it, was because of this exhibition that's coming up. And collecting money, and to protect the person that's handling the money and to keep our money organised, we needed a bank account. And then one thing has just led to another, and that just led to a delay in our plans, if you like. It's never all bad. It's perhaps a good thing that we have delayed, because we've realised that the organising our structure while we're still quite a small group is better. We'll be ready.
Yeah, I think that's a good point there for us to have brought in, even though it was at the end. It's a very important point. Well, do you know what? It's been really fascinating finding out about how you've started your group, and as you say, the journey towards formalising in some respects, even just to get a bank account organised has been a journey. So everybody, get yourselves over to York. Go and visit their website, yorktextileartists.com. and find out about the individual members, and then go and follow on the links in there and go and find out about each of those as well. Obviously, there'll be an episode on stitcherystories.com as usual, with a few images and links on there as well. And yes, I think it's going to be absolutely fantastic to see what you all get up to. And certainly the open studio sounds fantastic for next year as well. So I'll have to get myself over from Hornsey, won't I, and come and have a look.
Yes, come and say hello.
I absolutely will do. So there we are. Thank you very much. It's been brilliant finding out about your group. It'd be really great. Hope your exhibition goes every bit as wonderfully as you hope it does.
Thank you.
Thanks, Susan. That's brilliant. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. I think it'll be absolutely wonderful for everybody. Thank you so much. Anyway, it's been brilliant talking to you.
You too. Bye.
Bye, Susan. Thank you.
If you liked this episode and want to hear more, then please join the Stitchery Stories fan club so you can get an email when a new episode is released. It's a quick and easy way of listening and of keeping up with any news and offers from our lovely guests. Please visit stitcherystories.com to join the fan club. Of course, if you have iTunes, then subscribe there to automatically get new episodes, and why not leave us a review and rating whilst you are there. So that is the end of our Stitchery story for today. So keep stitching, keep smiling, and keep creating your very own Stitchery stories.